Well, figured I'd start a little early. I don't know. I was bored just sitting here. Um, yeah. For some of you guys, right? I don't get to see my face that much. This is my beautiful face. Um, but yeah, if you you should be. This is chapter 13, forging a national economy. This is this slide shows, okay, it's the Industrial Revolution, the cotton gin, things like that. So some of it's fun, some of it we just have to get through. This is, the first chapter of us skipping. I know. Can't do it in class. This is what I want to be doing right now. Not technically, but, we do what we got to do. I had a couple people watching for a second. I guess they were like, nah, I'm out of here. I don't want to watch this. The lighting's not the best on me, is it? It's a little, let me see, maybe I can move my lamp over. I'll go like that. Is that better? Yeah. Hey, Anna Maria, how are you doing? How you doing? I'm here. You guys are here. Good job. Get it done with, right? Probably just gonna attach some stuff on AP Classroom that you guys can do. It'll be, not an assessment technically. Maybe just do some short writings, learn about it here and there. Because it is, this, 13, 14, 15, and 16 are all, really important stuff going forward. There's some deep, heavy stuff in there. Manifest Destiny, some of the fun stuff too. Hey, Gabriella, how you doing? I promise I'm not going to leave it on the voice thing this time, but I can turn it on and off like this. Hello and welcome to A Push Green. Can you imagine if I did the whole thing in that voice? Like I didn't even notice it. I was just talking the whole time. That'd be pretty crazy. They have a new one. See, the only way I can hear it is if I click this button that says hear myself, but then it gives me an echo and you can't talk with an echo in your ears. So I don't know how to fix that, but this one is called Student Hall. I guess that's just like if you're having a graduation speech, or something like that. I would never want to, I don't know, that one's kind of fun too. But the clean is always just the best, just that. Nice and clean. And they have another one here. They have drone. Yeah. I don't know. What? No. I don't like that one. What's up, Zoe Bell? How are you doing today? Second time seeing you guys. I'm waiting until 7 to get this thing started, really. But, yeah, thanks for stopping on by. Yeah. No, I need some tea. Some iced tea. This, I love all the exclamation points. And you guys spelled my name right. So many people... Oh, Anna Maria didn't, but at least she got the E on the end. That's the only pet peeve, right? I know everybody wants their name spelled right. That's just, some teachers like, I can't get all these names right. And I can't get them all right, but I'm not going to complain about it. When people get mad that I didn't spell their name right. Yeah, there you go. That's better. Now, I mean, I know what you were trying to say, but at least you got the E on the end. It's when they don't get the E on the end. Obviously, you're excited to learn this stuff. Everybody is. Hey, Leah. So let's get started with the intro, right? Give Danny some love in here. Gave me the guitar. know if I explained that before, but this is my student from last year, Danny. You might know him from around school. And he said, let me play that guitar solo for you. And I said, okay, sounds good to me. So let's give it to him. We had some Harriet Tubman in there that we're going to talk about. Hey, Miss Vega, how are you doing today? I know how you're doing. I just saw you 4 hours ago. Hopefully you're doing okay. This slideshow is long, I uploaded it just for you, Miss Vega, to make sure you had it, because you always want to make sure that you have the PowerPoint. I know a lot of teachers won't give you guys a PowerPoint, but I'm like, might as well just give it to you. And if you want to look at it, and, I think some people, I know people can take notes on it and they like to do things like that. So that's why I give it to you. Forging a national economy. All right. So this is a weird chapter. It's a big chapter as far as time is concerned. All right. I believe it's 1690 to 1860, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check my book here. I believe that's what it is. It's chapter 13. I got a spare book here for me. 1790 to 1860. This is 70 years we're going to cover. Where some of these, it's 10, so it just all depends. But so let's get it started on this one. All right. So as we're moving farther west, this was the old Northwest Territory, right? We talked about that at the beginning, how they were trying to figure these things out, the land ordinance, and this was the old Northwest. But once we purchased the Louisiana, we bought the Louisiana Territory. I almost said we purchased the Louisiana Purchase. That doesn't make any sense, John. But we bought the Louisiana Territory. The Northwest moved farther west, right? And so we're going to have this Oregon and California territory. And this area in the middle isn't really settled because it's the plains. It's really hard to farm. The ground soil is very rocky. There's not a lot of rain. And the biggest thing is you just can't plow the fields, because back in the day when you would plow, right, before they came up with things, you would have to just do it by hand with a shovel. It's way too hard for me. But we're going to come up with some inventions with new metals, the invention of harder metals. And so those plain areas are going to be open to development, open to farming now. But as we're moving farther and farther west, that's what they're trying to do. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So look at this population growth, though. And it grew up, it grew pretty quickly, right? These are in the millions, 5.3 million, then 12.9, 31 million. So you can see between 1830 and 1860 how it just doubles. Bang. Right? And so, yeah, this slideshow, I know you can't see it, but it's 53 slides, but we're going to go through it a lot faster than that. If you guys are just joining us, say what's up in the chat box. If you are listening to this afterwards, make sure you click on the chat box. You can open it up, and that way, if we start some discussions in here, you can see what they are. You're not just getting the one side. You're not just getting my side of the conversation. But you can click on that. So it should be, if you're watching on your phone, it's like a little button that says chat box. And if you're watching on a computer or a tablet or your watch, I don't know what you're watching it on, whatever you want to watch it on. But there should be a button that you can click chat box, and you can see the replay of the chat box if you're watching this at another time. So Here's another map. There's a bunch of maps in this thing. I just chocked it full of maps. Population density, number of persons per square mile. You can see it's, most of the country in 1790, very few people, okay? And only those small areas in the Northeast have 90 or more per square mile, right? 1830, and I know this one, I don't know why the other one is so blurry. Look at the difference between these two. Like this is like old, you don't even know what, VHS is, but old VHS looking standard definition stuff. And then it's like, oh, pow, HD. And you can see expanding that high population density. All right. And then you're actually getting 2 or fewer per square mile. Per square mile, 2 or fewer. Right. That's a lot. So a mile would be like probably from, I-95 at Glades to the entrance to FAU, right? That would probably be a mile, somewhere around there. Be close to it, but it'd probably be about a mile. Definitely by the farther east entrance. So a square mile in each direction, only 2 people living in there. So it's not very much. And so this map was kind of weird. I saw it though. Cultural core areas. All right. And as these areas are moving west, so the southern areas they're kind of moving west. The people who lived here, they're the ones that are moving. So just kind of showing you how people are moving west. American cities, the only big one, you have New York, right? That's still the same case. There's nothing in Florida. We're nothing. We got New Orleans, tiny dot, 25 to 50,000. Not many cities, right? 1820. 1850, over 250,000. Not very many of those. Looks like a dot with a circle around it. Not seeing many of those. Definitely New York. But more of these 50 to 250,000. All right. And so, oh man, I thought these were all. Oh, well, I'll just leave them up there. It's fine. As they're moving farther west, they're definitely going to emerge more along the rivers and lakes. That should be obvious. We've talked about it. Obvious. I sounded Canadian for a second. Obvious. I can't do a Canadian accent. I'm not going to try. Sorry. But it should be obvious that they're along rivers and lakes and stuff like that, because that makes it so much easier to get around, right? And it's just civilizations throughout history have been on lakes and rivers, much, much more prevalent than anywhere else. But that by 1840, right, it was west of the Allegheny Mountains. And the Allegheny Mountains are this mountain range you can see here. See how it's these little purple things? Pop, 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 pop. So the demographic center of the United States is moving farther and farther west. All right. And you're getting newspapers are putting things out there. They're getting hotels farther out there. And so people are moving farther and farther west. But by far, the number one thing we're going to talk about in a minute, though, is the railroad. That's what's going to move everybody west in just huge numbers. All right. But moving west is not an easy affair. This is not jumping in the old Mercedes-Benz and cruising out west, right? Or jumping in an RV and saying, let's go west. No, this is, you put everything you own in a wagon and you hope for the best. And you hope you don't get attacked along the way by either, basically land pirates or Native Americans or you just starve to death. You can't find water, you get difficult. Christos, it's not Not something you or I are getting out there doing. I can tell you that. That's not a judgment on you. I ain't doing it either. Right? You can't put 3 cars in a Conestoga wagon, right? Hey Vivian, how are you? Welcome. Yeah, it's not going to be the easiest time getting out there. You got to bring everything with you. I mean, and then if you get lost, you're just lost in the middle of nowhere. There's no cities, no nothing. Okay? So, no trees, lots of buffalo. If you're a good hunter, though, you can get some buffalo. And buffalo is tasty. If that sounds mean, it's not. Buffalo is good. It's like beef with more flavor and less fat. And if you're a vegan or vegetarian, I get it. You can do the thing. I you do you. That's not for me, but if you do want some buffalo, you can go to Whole Foods. They have it. You can get buffalo steaks, buffalo burgers. They call them bison burgers. Buffalo, bison, same thing. And if you're traveling, you can go to Ted's Montana Grill. They do bison burgers and they do bison steaks. It's tasty stuff. And so that's from west of the Mississippi to the Rocky. Yeah, there's a buffalo burger. Yep. You can get a buffalo burger. You can go to Whole Foods right next to the school and get a buffalo burger on your way home and be like, I'm gonna cook me a buffalo burger. It's good. It's tasty. I'm telling you. It's a little bit more money. Yeah, it's just like, I don't think do I have pictures in this slideshow? No, I don't think so. Oh, those are on. I'm not sure how much it is. It's not like twice as much. It's like maybe 30, 40% more. 30% more. I think at the most 30% more. But it just has a lot less fat and it's completely free range. I mean, it's a buffalo. They're just, people raise them, but they're not like regular cows where they fatten them up and stuff like that. But yeah, you can definitely get them right there at Whole Foods. So you got that area in between. Yeah, I'd try them. I get them all the time. They're good stuff. And the Rocky Mountains. The Rocky Mountains, we've talked about them, when we were talking about the Gadsden Purchase, right? So the Rocky Mountains go all the way from Canada down, why am I hitting this thing? Down through America into Mexico, right? So it's a huge mountain range. And that's where you're going to have the plains between really, what we call the plains is like, think of Indiana, over to, halfway through Wyoming. That's going to be the plains. All right. And the Rocky Mountains start in Wyoming. They're right about in the middle of Wyoming, but, and in the Southwest, that's Mexico at this point, right? Because I know we're going back in time, so I know it's going to get confusing. I'm sorry. We haven't had the Mexican-American War yet in the virtual APUSH screen, right? In the actual classroom, we've already had the Mexican-American War. We're getting into the Civil War. But the APUSH Screen Studios has not covered the Mexican-American War. So keep those two separate in your head. Americans really, this should not come as a surprise that they're going to do whatever they want with the land and they're going to shape it and they're going to mess some things up. And we call that ecological imperialism, meaning we're going to do whatever we want. We're going to introduce new plants, new animals, whatever it takes. We're going to trap beavers until almost extinction. And those mountain men, I got a picture of them there. These are guys who just literally just live out in the woods, doing, hunting things and killing things and building log cabins. And, these guys you don't want to mess with because they're not, they don't have much to live for, right? They're just out there living, like LIVIN, living. And they would meet them and they would sell them. They would trade for things. They would want to like, oh, give me some sugar, right? Like you're in the middle of the woods and you're like, I want to sweeten my coffee up. So they trade like pelts for sugar and for all kinds of different things, these mountain men. And what did I put down there? Settlement of West contributed to nationalism, idea of American exceptionalism. Yeah, as we're moving west, we really start thinking of ourselves as pretty awesome people. And we were good. You know what I mean? We were conquering things, but, you know, conquering is not, you know, it's not good for the people being conquered, right? But we definitely thought of ourselves as pretty awesome, right? And we're going to shape that landscape to it. But for the most part, I mean, you could still go to places in the middle of Wyoming and you're not going to run into anybody for hours and hours. You go to Montana, there's nobody. You know what I mean? North Dakota, South Dakota. I mean, there's just nobody out there. So what's up, Nathan? We got a old A-Push alumni coming in to say hi. We're talking about moving out west. We're almost to the Manifest Destiny, Nathan. You can stop by and grab a Manifest Destiny poster and post it somewhere for 2020. I guess it would be, that would have been, no, it would have been 2019 when we did Manifest Destiny last year. So, yeah, 2020 Manifest Destiny, right? And so we're doubling our population every 25 years. So we're getting pretty big as far as population wise. All right. And this one is the big part of it. Okay. The transatlantic travel. It's getting easier and easier to jump on a boat and just go right across. All right. And so that's really going to foster a big movement of immigration during this time period, which this chapter is. Remember, it's 1790 to 1860. Because once we start fighting the Civil War, I don't know which class we talked about it in. We're not gonna be much tourism or immigration during a Civil War, right? People are gonna be like, let's let them fight it out, and then we'll come in afterwards, right? But they still don't come in for a while because it's so messed up. Yeah, that's good on that slide. And so we get this influx. Yeah, the Industrial Revolution is going to be, we're talking about it in this chapter. So we'll talk about it in here, Anna Maria. And, you know, the Irish start moving in 1845, they have a potato famine where they don't have any, you know, they had these bacteria that came through and just wiped out the potato crops. And that was just a big part of their diet. Ireland is not very big. I think Ireland landmass size is smaller than the state of Florida. Maybe it's Florida and like part of Georgia, if I remember correctly. It's something like that. It's not very big. I've been there once, but I was only in Dublin. I didn't really, you know, go much places other than that. But these guys, these Irish, right? They move in, you know, by, you know, just an insane amount. And anybody who's coming in right now, welcome. You can go back and watch the beginning at any time you want. And just make sure that, you know, you have the chat box on and stuff like that. Oh, somebody just left, but, you know, I don't know who that was. But really, when they came in, all right, it was, people didn't want them. They looked at the Irish as like maybe a step. Maybe a step. That's funny, Christos. A step above African Americans and blacks. All right, to a lot of the people that, because they were Catholic, they drank a lot. I mean, it's just, that's one of those stereotypes that are like, oh, it's an Irish person, they drank all the time. Yeah, I mean, they did. And they did a lot of the jobs, and it was really funny that, not funny, but it was kind of sad. They were doing the more dangerous jobs, like nitroglycerin, when they were building some of these. We're going to talk about the Erie Canal. They're going to be building these things. They're going to be using nitroglycerin. They used dynamite for a long time, but the invention of nitroglycerin, which is like a it's just it's a liquid, and you literally, like, if you had it in, say this pen top, right? You guys can see that, yeah. In this pen top, and I dropped it on the desk, it blow this whole desk apart. Just dropping it, right? And so people will be like filling it from like one bigger one into like a tiny vial, and you can just sneeze, like, boom, blow your hands off. Like, what? Yeah, it's very volatile. So people didn't want their slaves working with it because slaves are really expensive. And if you hire an Irishman to do it and he blows his hands off, you just go, well, sorry about your luck. You're fired. And you don't even have to pay him anymore. You don't even have to pay him for that day. You're like, well, you shouldn't have blown your hands off. That's messed up, right? And so that's what the Irish were doing. They're doing some of the worst things that you can possibly do. But they really are, like, put down here that it attracted the politics. They really got into the politics though, and that helped them out. They got into, a lot of it was corruption and stuff like that, but they got into the politics, and it really helped them out. All right. And so the Germans, on the other hand, they're different. There was some things going on. Remember, Germany is not a unified country until another over 100 years. And they had some money when they came over, and they go past the coastline to the Midwest. So if you go to Wisconsin, that's why you have so many things in Wisconsin that have to do with the Germans, in Milwaukee, and down into Chicago, and all these places that are heavily Germanic influenced, right? They're the ones that bring those Conestoga wagons that we saw. When you think of going west, you think of a Conestoga wagon, things like that. Christmas trees coming up, right? Christmas trees. Man, Christmas is going to be weird this year. Man, that's going to be weird. I just thought about that. I mean, Thanksgiving's going to be weird, but Christmas, that's really going to be weird. Oh, well, at least we're getting close to 2020 being over. So look at this. This is 5-year periods, 31 to 35, 36 to 40, right? In thousands, right? It's doubling. You can see how it's doubling in size. Oh, what did I do here? This is funny. Oh, this is too much work, John. What is this? What am I doing? Okay. That's crazy. Okay. Yeah, that's fancy stuff right there. I'll go back. I'm like, see it. Make it. So, really, the causes of all this immigration. Okay. They escaped a famine, and they're mostly in the Northeast. Okay. And you have these huge influx of immigrants, and nativism is where everybody is, just happy to be native. You like the people who are native to your country. And these feelings of nativism are gonna really lead to big areas of discrimination and racism, things like that, against the Germans, against the Irish. All right. And so they're settling in the Midwest. Luckily, they didn't settle in the same areas. But that's going to be what we talked about in the 1856 election with the Know Nothing Party. All right. And they're there. Remember, we said, like, oh, did they run for, I don't know which class it was, but we were talking about how they didn't run for multiple elections they didn't run in multiple elections, presidential elections, but they were running in local elections, and they're trying to stop these people because they're anti-immigrant, anti anybody who's not native. They're like foreign-born, anti-Catholic. Which, okay, well, if you're Irish, you're clicking a lot of those boxes, right? You're not native-born, you're an immigrant, and you're Catholic. So they're like, you're 3 strikes. You're out of here. You're out of here. Get out. And so look at, again, I know there's a bunch of maps on this one, But I think it's always funny is you see, okay, 41 to 45, 430,000, right? 46 to 50, big numbers. 51 to 55, huge. 56 to 60, it's slowing down. People are seeing the, civil war's on the horizon. So people were like, man, I might not want to immigrate to a country that's about ready to fight itself and kill everybody. They're gonna force me into the army, and they do. That's a big part of it. They start forcing these immigrants to fight. All right. Man, I thought all of these things were clickable, animated. Oh well, and do my due diligence in figuring it out. But we talked about the know-nothings. It was mostly just people coming in. People did not leave the United States. Not at all, Zoe, because there was few countries at this point that, even though there's a lot of problems, that you could rise up from nothing, and you had that ability to do so. Now, was it hard? Yeah. Did it happen to everybody? No. But you could. All right. And I put in quotes right up at the top, but that's a great question, Zoe. The Native Americans feared and opposed growing numbers, and I put those in quotation marks. So Native Americans, meaning not how we've been talking about Native Americans or Indians or Amerindians, which I love that term. It's my new favorite term. Thanks, Miss Vega, for giving me that one. I never heard that one before, but it's awesome. I love it. I haven't been using it as much as I want because I kind of forget about it because I'm so used to saying just Native Americans or actually the Comanche prefer the term Indians, modern Comanches. They like the term Indians, but that's why I put in quotation marks, Native Americans, right? These people that were born in America, so they consider themselves natives, all right? And so they're having riots in Philadelphia, and a big part is that the Irish Catholics, they like to fight. And it's not, I'm not saying it's that's just what it is. It's not derogatory. So that's why you're going to have a big influx of Catholic schools coming in, because people are going to be like, they're getting bullied in the public schools. So they're creating these Catholic schools to help with it. And they have this thing called the Order of the Star Spangled Banner, right? And they really become, that's that know-nothing party, all right? And they're trying to keep immigrants out, and they're trying to keep them out of office, because remember, once you get somebody in office, they represent the views of the people that are like them, and then they'll fight for different things that'll, you have legislation and laws and stuff like that. Then, because the immigrants both, when you think of Irish whiskey and German beer, you see these guys, this is kind of making fun of that point right there. This guy's in a barrel, an Irish, this guy's lager, German beer. And so the temperance movement, and you're going to need to know what that word temperance means, the temperance movement. This is what is eventually going to lead to, this kind of falls out of favor for a little bit, but lead to the 18th Amendment, which is the abolishment of alcohol. Yeah. So there was a lot of beer drinking by these immigrants, and a lot of people were like, we should get rid of the beers. Maybe less people come over. Well, they're getting in fights, they're drinking all the time. So these are all anti-foreign things that are happening during this time period, okay? Throughout the, we've already talked about, and I know this is weird with thinking about this on teaching this in this time frame, but, you got to think of 1844, what we've already been talking about in the time span, okay? Man, I have all these things. So, the factory system, all right? Let me think of the biggest ones on here. Definitely the Industrial Revolution went through England first, okay? And then it got over here. Samuel Slater is the first one to bring in this textile factory system. And that's going to be big because why would the textiles be so big in America? Well, guess what we got down south? Cotton, right? And lots of it. So we've been shipping it to Great Britain to be manufactured, spun into cloth, spun into whatever it needs to be spun into. And eventually we're like, hey, we need to get them over here. So eventually we get those things here. All right. And that's when the North is going to start really ramping up throughout the mid 1800s, early 1800s, all the way up to the mid 1800s. And the cotton gin is the big part of it. Okay. That's in 1793. And we're going to have some animations on it. I don't know if they're animations, but there's some animated things on the cotton gin. The really messed up thing with the cotton gin was Eli Whitney invented it to decrease the demand for slave labor. Because he's like, the hardest thing about cotton, I should have gotten some cotton. I meant to get some last year so you guys could see it. Everybody's touched a cotton ball, right? That's basically just a little bit refined cotton. But a cotton ball, like when you pick it, it has these little tiny seeds, cotton seeds. Cottonseed oil is good oil to like cook with and stuff. But you can get cotton seeds, and they're tiny, tiny seeds. Think of those things that get stuck on your shoes. You know, those little square little things that get stuck on your shoes. And they're in there, and they have those little tiny, things that hold on to the cotton. So you gotta pick apart the cotton. You gotta pull these little tiny cotton seeds out, and it is just mind-numbingly monotonous labor to try and get these cotton seeds out. And it's just really hard. And so it's made cotton very expensive and not a cash crop. Even though they have as much slaves as it still takes too long. So what Eli Whitney did was he figured out a way to separate those cotton seeds from that cotton very, very quickly. And he thought, oh, well, they were not going to need all the slaves to pick the cotton from the cotton seeds. Well, he didn't think about it, that now that part of it is easy. Now we just need the cotton. So now it's picking the cotton, because you still have to pick the cotton by hand. And if you've ever seen a cotton ball on a tree, if you've ever been by a cotton field, I know some people have. You go by the South and you can see, they still grow cotton. They just pick it. They have machines that can pick it now. But it's like this, like really spiny leaf thing. And it's like this. And you got to pick the cotton out of the middle of it. And it's really hard. It's like these things are all spiky and they'll stick you. And so you just have to pick it out of there. And so you have to do it by hand. And then you have to bend over. They're only like, 4 feet tall. And so it's really backbreaking, hard work. So this cotton gin made that part just skyrocket. So it actually made the demand for slaves go up. All right. And we'll get to the cotton gin. I have it. I think it's in the next couple slides or something like that. We got to pick it up, man. We got a lot to do. So New England had most of the mills. All right. And we had that, remember, 1807, 1815. You should be thinking in your head, oh, yeah, that was the War of 1812. All right. And so we developed this thing Eli Whitney does. He's a pretty good inventor here. Standardized or interchangeable parts, okay, for building firearms. Because before, if you wanted to buy a firearm, a gunsmith would just make you a firearm. But if it broke, you'd have to bring it back to him because it would all be a little bit different. And so what Eli Whitney did was like, hey, let's just make all the parts the same so you can come in and say, I need this part for this type. Yeah, I know, Zoe. It's messing you up with the timeline being in the 1790s. And, we're talking in class about the 1850s. I know. I didn't want to do it this way, but there was no other way for me to do it without it just pushing everything, I can't teach them both at the same time. I know. I'm sorry. And for building, so these interchangeable parts, right? So that way you can come in and say, hey, this is a, X model firearm. I need a click spring for it, something like that, whatever the part is. And then they would just give it to you. And then you can put it on your gun. Or, whatever it is. Then it's going to lead to other areas where they do that. Okay. And you're going to have these guns that are very easily repaired. And like I said, it's going to be mass armies going to be able to, and this is what's going to make the Civil War so deadly. Okay. And we get the telegraph, we get the sewing machine, all of these things. So all these things are going to make life a lot easier and quicker. All right. Oh, here's another one. Okay. So the cotton gin. The planters become extremely rich. Remember I was talking about today in class, how in Mississippi, leading up to the Civil War, they're richer than in New York, right? That's the problem, though, is it increased the demand for slaves instead of decreasing it, because now they needed the slaves to pick the cotton instead of separate the cotton from the cotton seeds. All right. So this is how it looks. You could see you put them in here. And now when you do this on an industrial scale, it's a lot different. And they have these brushes, and it brushes them against the cotton, and it takes the cotton seeds out, and all the cotton seeds drop down here. Okay. And then what you get left over is just pure cotton. Yeah. I mean, that's what all, other than wool, especially in the South, it was more cotton because it's cooler. Up north, they would use wool from sheep, but then you would use cotton for everything. That's how you would do your drapes, how you do, your sheets, everything. So cotton was huge, huge, big business. All right. Here's another look at it. Here's another one. So you can see it kind of pulls it through. You get the seeds. This is just another version. Get dumped up here. The brushes brush the cotton, and then you get clean, nice cotton on this side. So why did it grow? Okay. There's a lot of things in it. We're not going to spend a whole bunch of time on this, but basically we have a lot of natural resources in the United States: coal, iron, the forests. There's very fertile land throughout the United States. And a lot of people are making money. They're getting these patents, right? And if you know what a patent is, that's when you invent something and nobody else can make it. So what else we got here? I want to make sure we talk about. That's pretty good for this one. Capital. Okay. So capital, we're going to refer to that multiple times, especially going forward after the Civil War. Okay. Capital just means money for investment. All right. That's what it says on the screen. Sorry. It's just money used for investment. So if you say this company has a lot of capital or we need more capital, they're just saying we need more money. And wealthy people, rather than have their money sit there, this is how the rich get richer. They invest in things. All right. They invest in your business and they say, hey, we'll give you $10,000 and we'll take a certain percentage. You guys have all seen Shark Tank or something like that, right? That's what capital is, capital investment. That's what they're doing. Okay. And hold on, let me see here. Okay. So a big problem that we start getting in the mid to early 1800s is how they're taking advantage of workers. All right. They're going to use children because I put it here. They're small and cheap. They use orphans. So they have these orphanages and they'll pay the people that run the orphanages to send their children to these factories to work. And the children don't get paid anything. They just pay the owners of the orphanages. And then, I mean, a child, can't really stand up to an adult. And sometimes the adults would even, like, you would have kids and you would just send them off to work. You'd be like, go to work. And you were like, but I'm 6. And they're like, I don't care, make money. And they start popping out kids just to send them to work. They're like, because there's no laws making sure they go to school. Nothing. Right? But the problem is something happens at work because you're 6 years old in a factory. You stick your hand somewhere, you're like, ooh, that looks cool. Or you're just not thinking because you're 6 years old. Stick your hand somewhere and your hand gets cut off. Guess what happens? You don't go, I'm suing this place. I'm getting paid. I'm calling Steiger. It's going green. No. Guess what happens? No workman's comp. The guy walks over and says, okay, bandage it up. Maybe put something on it and then go, you're out of here. You're fired. Done. Just go home. We can't use it anymore. You don't have any hands. Or you lost a hand. You're not going to, good to us. And then you get home and your parents are like, what? You got fired? You don't have any hands? Get out of here. They just kick you out. And now you're an orphan, one-handed orphan, and you're begging on the streets. Great story, right? Happened all the time. All right. And I put that like forming labor unions at the beginning was illegal. They couldn't do it. And so finally, though, once we start getting some more people being able to vote, and you get 1840, Martin Van Buren passes a 10-hour day for federal employees. They're like, 10 hours. Yes, we only have to work 10 hours a day. That was good. They were working 16 hours a day. The kids were working 16 hours a day. I don't even know how you work 16 hours in a day, man. I'd be dead. Yeah, that's good for that one. What are we on here? I don't know if we're going to finish this one tonight. This is a big one. I'm going to have to do this tomorrow night, finish it up. Because we're just at halfway through. I'm not looking at doing this more than this. Let's finish up with the women and we'll call it a night because I'm hungry. I haven't eaten dinner yet. So women, the one thing about pre-industrial, they're more in the home. But once the factories really start getting going, you're having some of the younger, poor women work in the factories because they're not going to school. So, but it gave them a little bit, like I put on their economic independence, so they could get out, do a little bit of things, right? But not really. And these Lowell girls that we're going to talk about, they had these boarding houses. Work 6 days, 6 hours a day, and you would live and work in the same place. You would just walk to work with everybody else. And this is where women really start becoming teachers. All right. This is their one profession that they, like back in the day, you couldn't even be a male teacher. It wasn't even allowed. Right. I'm like, ugh, that sucks. What do I do? No cars, can't be a teacher. And then they come up with this thing. It's called the cult of domesticity. All right. And it really was, woman gets married, then she stays home and takes care of the kids. And it really kind of just brought everybody together. Right. It was just this belief that women controlled the household, but they were free of having to deal with the money. But they did have power in the household. All right. And you're not having those huge families that you did, like 10, 12, 14 kids, like we talked about before. And it really became more about the children. This is where it's going to get a lot better to be a child in the middle 1800s. You know, there's still going to be a lot of taking advantage of kids and as far as like working and stuff like that. But, you know, it's going to get a little bit better. So these were the Lowell girls, young girls, probably your age or younger, working in these systems. Their typical profile, white, you know, middle teens, maybe in their lower 20s, but most of the time not. And this is where they would be working. Doesn't look fun, but it was jobs. So you can see here, this is New England, and you can see they would always be along the rivers. And we don't have to really go through all these things, but they had factories in the black, and where the hotels, the churches, boarding houses were in blue. So that's where they would live. So you can see how close they are to the factories. So they would live in these houses here and then just walk to the factories to work. That's what they would do. And let me see here. Let's just go through this, man. Let's just do this one. Let's just go. Let's do it. Let's do it. Sorry, I was skipping through all those things. So John Deere and the steel plow. So before you had a plow, which John Deere invented, okay, you can see this thing here. It would dig up the soil so you could plant. You would have to do it all on your own. All right. And it was, same John Deere when you think of John Deere tractors and everything. Yeah, it's this guy. And it was a huge invention, and it allowed people to farm the Midwest and farm the Midwest a lot better, and then also farm the Great Plains because they could dig in and rip that soil up and get through the rock, get through the topsoil that was very, very tough. All right. Then they come up with the mechanical reaper. And this thing harvested the wheat, and you can see it spins in a circle, and it'll take the wheat up off the ground, and then that way you could, it was more mechanical, all right? And that's what a lot of this is. The telegraph, right? Beep, 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 beep. I don't know how people hear that and like can decipher that stuff. Drive me crazy. But that's where they're going to run telegraph lines along all the railroads coming up. And that's so you can talk to each other over, basically instantaneously. And Abraham Lincoln is going to use this extensively throughout the war to really get instructions to the front line and get supplies and men moving throughout the country very, very quickly. And they get a transatlantic cable in 1858, which is crazy to me that they sunk a cable across the ocean, 140 years ago. All right. They get the sewing machine, 1840s. This is going to lead, this big one here is going to lead to women in the factories. Okay. Sewing machines are going to be big for women in the factories. All right. We've talked about all that. I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to call it. I don't think I can go through all this. It's 7:50. We've already been doing it for 50 minutes, 53 minutes, right? I'll just have to finish it up tomorrow. We'll do chapter 13, part 2. And it'll be nice and short. Yeah. So for everybody who stuck around, thank you very much. And we just have a couple things to do on the roads and canals and stuff like that. But, I've been working since 6 o'clock this morning. I'm grading papers and doing all that stuff. I'm ready to go sit down. So we will, thank you, Christos. We will pick this up tomorrow. You guys have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Peace. Oh, I got to hit end stream. Yeah. Bye-bye.